Hello and welcome to the first video of the Typescript fundamentals. And today's video, we're gonna take a look at this course from Front-End Master, especially from the Mike North, this software or particularly a senior staff engineer at LinkedIn. So he worked at LinkedIn, as well as the CTO of Levanto Financial and the UI architecture of Yahoo. There's a lot of title here that I hear for the first time. So, for example, senior staff engineer is something that I actually have heard about that before. Uh, but UI architecture. Okay, so this is the role in which Mike North has previously worked. And I think this is very, very important as a way to understand what is the, yeah, Levanto. And now he's currently is the principal staff engineering and tech lead of Stripe. Okay, so principal principal staff engineering. Okay, principal staff engineering and tech lead. I get it, why he's a tech lead of developer. Yep, and tech lead of developer platforms at Stripe. Of developer platform at Stripe. Okay, so at Stripe here. So okay, this is all of their titles, and well, actually, all of the different companies that he has previously worked at: senior staff engineer at LinkedIn, CTO of Levanto Financial, and as UI architect of Yahoo Ads and Data Division. So now he's currently working as a principal staff engineer and tech lead of developer platform and Stripe. There is something interesting here with Stripe or people from Front-End Master, especially instructor from Front-End Master, that a lot of them has previously worked at this big company, especially Stripe, Netflix, some of them at Microsoft. But the thing here is that now Stripe is this company that are actually looking for talent to help them to come up with all of these banking challenges, digital banking challenge, and how uh, again this is something that unfortunately it has helped vastly people on Europe and the US, Australia as well, some part of the Southeast Asia, Middle East, but it's something that is not used in Latin. And that's where the gap comes from. Again, that's also part of this vast majority of people that, especially in government issues here, when the case of Latam, well, actually, Latam is a very beautiful country as well as with their people. Unfortunately, their government hasn't prioritized is the organization and optimizations of their most GDP areas, right? And they just only have improved is this way of getting rich from extractions. Anyway, that's something that is way beyond the scores. I mentioned that because uh, here is where the value of software engineers, especially those who needs to organize data and then optimize process, actually are needed. Okay, is on the exchange of value. So money is one of the best way to actually find a way to exchange that value. So Stripe is one of them. The other is Wise. which is kind of recently. You have un- be this was called as TransferWise before, but now it's renamed as Wise. So you have Wise, you have now Stripe. I think Stripe is something that they have a lot of. Yeah, exactly. So it was founded by 2010, right? Whereas Wise here, it was founded at 2017. So all of these are companies that are looking to open up. But they look the internet opportunity that it's bringing by now skipping is a lot of these barriers imposed by his government. Okay, in as a way to exchange the value here, exchange money. So now they has become is their own banking in or financial services. So this is something important to recognize as someone that lives in Latin because it's through this kind of exchange or platform that allow you to do that is where we can now is not only growth in terms of money, which is something important, in terms of wealth, all right, but also in how do we exchange, how do we interact with other people that they come from different backgrounds, and how can we collaborate, how can we exchange, how can we interact, giving our huge backgrounds. So this is something that early in the days of human civilization when we gather ourselves as tribes in different locations. So hey, what do you offer, and what can I offer to you as a way to now establish this trade relationship? Okay, things have started to become very, 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 very interesting. Okay, so Stripe is this now financial service and financial solution for business and for payment processing, as well as Wise. Okay, so Wise is founded in London as a way to compete. I'm thinking of Stripe, and yeah, so that's interesting. Also, something that PayPal is actively looking for, and as you can see, PayPal was founded in 1998, 10 years or 12 years, 10 years, right? 10 years before that. hmm So 10 years before that, Stripe was founded is 12 years before that. And now you got is Wise that was founded is 7 years before that. So the idea of this is also their founder and I can. So the idea of looking at this because the internet is something recently. It is very very recent. The internet phenomenon. Uh, because it all started from that from 1998, 1994, 1998, and 2000, and how in this last 25 years, right? Uh, all of the things that allow us to do, not only myself, but that allow us to do in terms of learning. So now I'm able to actually talk in English, a language that I didn't that I wasn't exposed before, not at all. And how I can learn not only their jargons but also their culture as well as the technology they're using, all of the terminology and jargon and mumbo jumbo, you know, and now combine that with my own experience, which is someone that comes from South America, especially Venezuela, uh, currently living in Argentina, and now see the tremendous value that I can get it from this. as a way to not only solve my inner problems, okay, um, whether it's personal problems, financial problems, fitness, nutrition. As you can see, well, I'm someone that actually can that I hit the gym regularly. Uh, and by doing that, how now can I escape, or how can I find alternative to my problems, to my current problems, and also giving my location? You know, that's to me something very powerful. This is also something that is very threatening for those who hold the power. Uh, and the idea here is to find way peacefully to transfer this power, perhaps through market shares. That might be one of the way over time. Something that, for example, Bill, what CEO Microsoft? No, no, it's not the current. It's the founder, Bill Gates. Okay, so Bill Gates now, he doesn't hold the vast majority of the company. Uh, there's something called that. There's something called founder shift, which is beautifully described by the co-founder of Ethereum and the now founder of Cardano. Uh, Cardano founder, uh, exactly, Charles Hodkinson, Hodkin, Charles Hoskinson with S, exactly. Charles Hodkinson has a beautiful, okay, yeah, Charles Hodkinson has a beautiful uh, ba, 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 podcast with, yeah, has a beautiful podcast with Lex Friedman, so Lex Friedman, okay. When he talk about is this proof of concept, which is, or yeah, this proof of this proof of stake, and how, for example, he mentioned that the founder of well, the Microsoft founder, Bill Gates, now have over time shift their share on the share stock, uh, and that has now provide more opportunity to other people with different backgrounds, and also they are competent in the field. Try to understand these ideas and try to make it much more easy to digest and easy to process is something, and also easy to communicate, that is something that I think that is very valuable in today's world. That's the reason why I make this huge overview as a way to see the relationship here, not only for learning Typescript fundamental, which is part of the bare bones of all of this, and also is to understand the value proposition of this exchange of something that in the banking system they do that, but with numbers. How is what is the value proposition in exchange, and how, as a software engineers, most of the time we need to solve problems when it comes to organize data and to improve process, and especially in the case of the banking system. So that's something beautiful that also come with a lot of challenging in there. So, for example, hey, well, how do you now be more or allow more opportunity in this field, which instead of guarantee is equal payment, guarantee is now equal opportunities. Okay, so then the people in there decide once they once they are in there, what are the things that they need to do or they would like to do, where they want to dedicate time. Because given the painful experience of people to choose whether or not they need to take some actions, and how decisions actually lead them to some dead end, okay, is also part of the learning process, of the decision making process, living a life and collaborate with others. Okay, come back here. I think that was a very beautiful way to describe at least the relationship of TypeScript, and especially is those people that have worked with TypeScript and where they offer their value and why they offer their value to a company like Stripes, Wise, or PayPal, and understand that it is important to provide, so for this software engineer, for these people that have this skill set, to provide uh, strategies and techniques to solve this problem from this financial service, from this banking system. What they care about is the exchange, it is a transaction. It's not only about moving money around, it's also about is the exchange in the value exchange. How do I want to make? How do I make my money to move? How do I exchange value? How do I make the value uh, easily to share across different entities, people, organizations, that kind of thing? This is when you enter in the realm of the market and the economy. Again, going back here. Okay, this is also important because as you're able to describe all of this process and to understand why you're doing the thing that you do, it'll make more sense to motivate people. Totally. So, for example, in my case, I am be witness, witness me. You know, and yeah, and after all, we are now. Yeah, completely. After all, we are is Jesus. Um, after all, sorry. After all, we are storytelling machines, storytelling consumption machines, and yeah, that's the reason how we have been moved, and why a lot of this isn't whatever isn't is draw and drain and grab a lot of the attention of people. Anyway, here we are. This course is taught by Mike North, okay, which currently is the principal staff engineering and tech lead of developer platform at Stripe, senior staff engineer at LinkedIn, CTO of Levanto Financial previously, and the UI architecture at Yahoo and Data Division. So this course was published December 4th, 2023, like a couple months ago. Holy moly. And because the whole point of this video or this series of videos is to take notes out of this course. So I'm gonna have a different tabs where I'm going to look at the video and I'm going to show any of that video, but I'm gonna take notes out of this as a way to now first improve my communication skills, writing skills, the ability to make complex idea meaningful to others is something very important. As a senior developer or as someone that want to make sense of what is the thing that they do, holy moly, that's very very interesting, man. That's very very. Very interesting. And let's go.
So, welcome to Typescript Fundamentals. My name is Mike North. I've been a front.
Mike North, right? So Mike North, exactly. Mike North, like the king of the north. Mike North.
Front-end master's instructor for about 8 or 9 years now, depending on.
Holy moly. A exactly. So Mark North. So okay, this is now part of the introduction. Introduction. Yeah, introduction. There you got it. Okay, introduction. So Mark, Mark, Mark North. Okay, which is Mark North, is also a front end master instructor for about 8 or 9 years. Holy moly! 10 years ago, I was 2014. I was God damn. Um, yeah, 2014. I wasn't aware of what I'm doing with my life. I was looking at ways of how can I make sense of the thing where I am, and especially with uh, I was damn son. I was looking at software computer or computer science program, and yeah, I look at a computer science programs back in my hometown in Venezuela, but I didn't really love about the idea of what I have to do after I graduate from that. You know, and I experienced a very or well through my entire life I have experienced a lot of anxiety attacks, especially existential anxiety issues or existential uh, attacks. Uh, well, if you are from Venezuela, it's like everything went badly wrong in the last 20 years, but so fast. Like it's like, hold on, what the fuck is this? Chill, bro. Yeah. But in any case, here we are. So Mark North is an also from the master instructor for about 8 to 9 years. Good. That's interesting. Okay.
Whether you count, when we recorded the course versus when it came out. So,
Okay. Whether whether you count the whether you count when they recorder recorder their courses or when they publish or when they come out or when they come out.
oh, I've been working with front-end masters for a while. I'm a principal staff engineer at Stripe, and I'm also their tech lead for their external-facing.
Okay. So he is the principal staff engineering at Stripe, and also
So I've been working with front-end masters for a while. I'm a principal staff engineer at Stripe, and I'm also their tech lead for their external-facing.
okay, and also the tech lead of their external facing, okay, and also the tech lead of their external facing developer developer platform.
facing developer platform org. So this is the part of the company that makes Stripe Node, the
Okay. The external facing developer platform.
engineer at Stripe, and I'm also their tech lead for their external facing developer platform org.
Development platform or the external
So
facing.
this is the part of the company that makes Stripe Node.
Okay, this is the part of the company that makes Stripe nodes. Yes, or Stripe nodes.
The Node.js SDK, which is written in Typescript. If you go
Okay, Node.js. Okay, this is a part of the company that makes Stripe nodes, Node.js, uh, with Typescript. That makes a lot of sense.
to stripe.sh, you can see a little in-browser CLI, which is pretty cool.
So navigate to the Stripe browser here. So this is part of their job. Okay, a dev tool here. No, a CLI in fact. Tile.
So that's made by some of the teams that I support. .sh.
Exactly. You can see a little browser in. So you can see a little a little in browser CLI. That's pretty fucked up. Oh my god, that's wild, bro. That's also interesting. As for your tech savvy, near weirdo, near nerdy stuff, it's like yeah, it's pretty nerdy stuff. Yeah, that's also interesting. Yeah, that's also very interesting.
You can see a little in-browser CLI, which is pretty cool. So that's made by some of the teams that I support.
Okay, that is made by one of the team he support. God damn it. If you take a look at that, is quite interesting. This because it's this built-in browser or this little in CLI feature here. What the hell? So Stripe Shell test mode. Okay. Accounts link session. Banks confirm the credit note. Exchange file. Payment plans. Road review. Subscription tax code. Transfer capability billing. Climate order test. Customer balance. Financial connections. Invoice line items. Issue car holders. Issue tokens. Radar, Sigma, tax calculation, terminal location, treasury, outbound treasury. God, select a resource. Holy moly. Depending on the type of company you are, you might only want to use this accounts, banks, bank, car, charge, customers, invoice, and payment link, and as well as refund. If you set up a subscription, might also be like that, and perhaps also the billing for yourself and the customer balance transaction, more like internal use. Holy moly. Select a method. delete, retrieve, update list, create capabilities, person and reject. You say a list, API reference, Stripe account. And it make it easy for you to do that. You know what I mean? Because when you select that, it's like this. Create, expand list, limit. Again, this won't allow you to send anything because you're using it as SDK. Exactly. Stripe CLI pre-install. Log into your Stripe account and press Ctrl plus backtick to start managing your Stripe resource in test mode. But this is in test mode. Holy data. Exactly. You must. And it tells me, oh, it detect my language. It detect my region here. That's interesting. That's also very, very interesting. Okay, what they are capable of doing. Holy fuck.
And Stripe Workbench, which is kind of like Chrome DevTools, but for Stripe.
Okay, and Stripe. Okay. Holy fuck. And Stripe DevTool and Stripe DevTools. Exactly. Kind of like browse. Kind of like Chrome DevTool. Okay, which is something that we have here. Stripe Shell. I mean Stripe Workbench. Their current name is Stripe Workbench. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So Stripe Workbench here. Holy fudge! Completely. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he's also working in
It's
another.
another big TypeScript project.
Okay, it's another big TypeScript project. Holy moly!
In addition to this, I am one of a few engineers that works very closely with teams at Stripe to shape.
Okay, he is also one of the few engineers that works with team at Stripe to shape the public API. Okay, to shape the public API.
The public API that anyone building a payments.
Yeah, I get it, man. Not everybody can be here. That everybody can, yeah, that everybody or that anyone can, yeah, that anyone building payment, that anyone building a payment integration, okay, on top of Stripe use, on top of Stripe use, but those any that develop payment integration on top of Stripe use.
Integration on top of Stripe uses. And we use TypeScript to discuss the API semantic.
So they they use Stripe or they use TypeScript to describe the API semantics, which means that what is the meaning of this API? What this API will do using Typescript.
and the shapes of requests and responses that we get.
The the shape of requests and response that they get,
And this powers, nearly $1 trillion worth of payment volume.
and this power nearly Jesus, and this power nearly $1 trillion. If you want to know how much is trillion, is billion in Spanish, which is a 1 followed by 12 zeros. Uh, trillion dollar worth of payment, volume every year. Holy moly, $1 trillion. We're not talking about millions, we're talking about $1 trillion worth of payment volume every year.
Every year.
If you think about this kind of challenge requires people who are in the field developing applications, that kind of thing, actually be the best of this. We can think of that like, imagine that you are in war. It's like we need the best people from this, okay? Because if we're afford to lose money from one of our customer or model or few of them, not to mention hundreds or thousands of millions of them. So this business or the way of how we're doing things won't won't thrive. So TypeScript especially is building this JavaScript application, which is very dynamic. You never know what is the shape of the thing that you're building. You need to find a way to actually provide is an understanding of what you're doing is a self-documenting code, which is part of the things that Agile Manifesto actually mentioned is that, okay, working software over a comprehensible documentation, even though you need to have that because that will help you to keep up the pace, especially as you need to do things that now are scale, that now are going to impact in millions of people. That's one of the reasons to me is like if people are actually working as a software engineering, truly as a software engineering, if they want to dedicate time to do this, I think that personal opinion, in my humble opinion, is that you should definitely dedicate your time and attention to this. Focus your attention to this. Focus your attention to this. Because you might be one of their users. And and also, as you focus on this, do not delegate your own health. Okay, mental health, uh, physical health, your fitness, your fitness, your mental, physical, spiritual health. As you do this, uh, you can start doing this by money. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you need to find a way of why you're doing this. Okay, money can be one of them, but there is a threshold, especially when you reach certain amount of money that you say, okay, I'm really doing this for money. You know what I mean? Why am I doing this? What is the reason of doing this? But in any case, yeah, this little overview was something important to me as a way to describe what do we need to do, or what are the things that we are doing, especially as we are now hearing Mark North, Mike, is Mike? Yeah, Mike North experience and how you can combine their experience working in that particular field in the banking industry, the finance industry, to say, hey, you know what? This is something that the market, the exchange of the banking industry, because you can boil down into the exchange here. That's exactly the reason why we are doing this banking system, that people build banking systems, is because they want to exchange is value, aka money, is one of the way of you exchange that. So this exchange of value, which is something that comes very primitive in ourselves when we live in tribes. I know I'm repeating myself here. Bear with me just a little bit, just as a way to now explain the reason why we are here. Okay, it's because we come with this tribal society in which different people that you don't know their backgrounds, but even though they have things that you need to exchange, um, whether they are food, meat, shelter, whatever it is, but they are this kind of thing. How now you can find a way to exchange that without killing each other? Uh, the commerce, it might be one way to do that. However, the thing is that as you now grow in scale, you need to then find better ways or to find alternative way to make that process of exchange both better for both, which means the other party needs to also improve it as well as myself, uh, as a way to thrive. Damn. So once you're able to understand this, okay, and a good example of this is might be is relationship. Okay, I must do the work as well as the other partner must do as a way to this, as a way to now coexist in this contract. Okay, with different people that I don't know your background. Okay, but I need you to do the thing that you do and improve, as well as you need that I do the thing that I do and improve. Because if you don't do that, then well, you're going to be discarded. But in any case, all right. This has been very interesting as a way to describe what Mike North has worked before, and which is now the principal senior staff at Stripe, and also tech lead of the tech lead of Workbench, right? Yeah. Uh, yeah, the tech lead of the external developer platform, or which is a company that makes Stripe nodes in Node.js with Typescript. Okay, and also he is part of the team that support the Stripe Dev tool, Stripe Workbench, pretty much like Chrome Dev tool. And he's also one of the few engineers that works with a team at Stripe to share the public API that anyone building payments on top of building a payment integration on top of Stripe use. And they use Typescript to describe the API semantics. Okay. What is this API will do? What is the shape of the data of this request, this response? That they get this power that the exactly they get this power. So this single API, look at this. This single API powers a nearly $1 trillion of payment volumes every year. This is one followed by 12 zeros. Is a million of a million. $1 trillion. Okay. Interesting. Move
So it's
on.
a very like high stakes, API where getting the shapes of things right and making it easy to build on Stripe is really important, and knowing how to work with
Exactly.
stakes, API where getting the shape, and this powers, nearly $1 trillion worth of payment volume every year. So it's a very like high stakes, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
So it is a very high stake API
API where getting the shapes of things right and making
where getting the shape of things right is very, very important.
it easy to build on
Exactly. We're getting the shape of things right and making easy to build things on top of Stripe. Very, very important. Is really important.
Stripe is really important, and knowing how to work with types and how to model different things with types.
Exactly. So knowing how to work with types and how to model exactly how to model different and how to model completely, man. That's one of the reasons why I'm here. Is like not only how to work with type, but how to model, how to define the outside world, how to represent the outside world, how to model different things with types.
Is of critical importance.
Exactly how to model things with type is a critical is is of a critical importance. Yeah. So knowing how exactly knowing how to work with types and and model different things with type is is of critical importance, man. Of course, because if you have a company, if you have now a API that have a high stake by now exposing the by now making this API public by now building this public facing API that is responsible for uh, knowing the semantics or defining the semantics and the shape of the request and the response of the data that deals payment integrations on top of Stripe, handling is trillion allegedly to that handling trillions of dollars worth handling trillions of dollars worth of payment volume a year. Yeah, man, you definitely need to do this. It's critically important. And even though if you don't work for this kind of high stake, but after all, you are going to be rewarded by the level of competence you are.
So that's kind of where TypeScript DNA,
So that's kind of yeah. So that's kind of where Typescript DNA
is helping
is helping my career completely. is helping my is helping his career.
me in my career there. The number one goal I have for this course is that By the end of our time together, you should have a mental model for how TypeScript works.
Okay, so the goal of this course, okay, which is important. So the goal of this, uh, build a mental model.
The number one goal I have for this course is that by the end of our time together, you should have a mental model for how TypeScript works.
A mental model.
The number one goal I have for this course is that by the end of our time together, you should have a mental model.
Okay, a mental model of how exactly the mechanism, a mental model of how TypeScript works.
For how TypeScript works. Of course, we're going to discuss a bunch of different language features and how to work with variables and arrays and objects, things like that. But the most important thing I want to leave you with is how to think about types.
Okay, a mental model of how TypeScript works, how to think about types.
And this is what will let you not only understand the latest TypeScript release, but
Mm-hmm. A mental model of how TypeScript works, how to think about types. So it's this mental model. How to think in types will not only allow you to understand the latest feature, but also to keep up, but also but all the release that follow after, but also but all the release but all the release that follow after
all of the releases that follow after it, right? I want you
after it.
to have an intuition for how these kinds of things work.
Exactly. Develop an intuition of how this thing, or how TypeScript TypeScript works.
Which is better than just mastering a particular feature of the language. And I think we'll be able to do that today. So for those of you who are new to TypeScript, let me explain a little bit about what it is. It's an open source project.
Okay, so here we are. So what is TypeScript? Something that I'm quite familiar with. So what is TypeScript? Yep. So what is TypeScript? Okay, what is TypeScript? An open source, an open source, an open source project maintained by Microsoft. Okay,
That is maintained by Microsoft, and it represents a syntactic superset.
exactly. Representing a syntactic, okay, syntactic, exactly. An open source project maintained by Microsoft representing a syntactic superset of JavaScript. Exactly. It represents this, but it's syntactic because it's the syntax is how do you write that? But this is syntactic superset of JavaScript.
Of JavaScript. And what that means is where JavaScript's syntax ends, you could think of that as sort of where TypeScript begins.
Okay. So where syntax, so where where JavaScript syntax ends, Typescript begins.
This is not to say all JavaScript programs are valid TypeScript programs. It's not a superset in that sense, but all of the JavaScript syntax you know and use every day, that is going to work as part of a TypeScript program. So it's not a superset in that sense, but all of the JavaScript syntax begins. This is not to say all JavaScript programs are valid TypeScript programs.
Okay. This is not to say all valid JavaScript programs are. This is not to say all JavaScript programs.
Syntax ends. You could think of that as sort of where TypeScript begins. This is not to say all JavaScript programs are valid TypeScript.
All JavaScript programs are valid TypeScript programs.
It's not a superset in that sense, but all of the JavaScript syntax you know and use every day, that is going to work as part of a TypeScript program. There are three parts to TypeScript. There's the language itself.
Okay, so there are. So what JavaScript TypeScript is, after all, is this. It representing a syntactic superset of JavaScript. So you can think of this as when JavaScript syntax ends, TypeScript begins. So if you say a JavaScript programs are valid TypeScript, it's not a guarantee of that. Why is not that guarantee? Because uh, hmm, because hmm, there are three types. It's not in that sense. So it extend is the syntax of the JavaScript. Okay, so there are three types of, or there are three parts of parts to TypeScript. Okay,
The programming language, the
the programming language, the
compiler,
the compiler,
and a language server.
and a language server.
The compiler is what turns TypeScript code into clean JavaScript. It's very readable. You can look at the build output and we'll be able to make sense of it quite easily. The language server, if you've used something like Visual Studio Code or WebStorm, other IDEs, it's the kind of software component that powers those nice little type heads and helps validate code right as you're authoring it.
Okay. So you change this to the second is the second transform. Yeah, transform. The second transform your TypeScript code into a clean, nice JavaScript output. Okay. And the third is a server that run in your ID. Okay. And the third is a server that's running in your ID. That's running in your ID. Okay. So the third is a server that is running in your ID that helps you as you write it, you authoring.
And so that's what That is what the language server does. You can think of TypeScript a little bit like a fancy linter. Um, the reason I
So you can use TypeScript as a fancy linter.
encourage you to use this mental model is TypeScript only does things for you at build time.
Okay, you can think of this. You can think of this TypeScript as a fancy linter. It can do things only at runtime, at build time. Exactly, at build time. Completely.
It helps ensure that your code is correct, but it kind of compiles away the thing that's actually running in a browser or in Node.js. That's just regular JavaScript, and that's part of the goal of this project, right? You should be able to use this to build JavaScript code that can run anywhere, like on embedded devices or in a
Mm-hmm. So you can exactly you can use TypeScript to write code that works on any JavaScript supported devices, a browser, server, IoT, embedded devices, embedded devices.
browser, wherever you can run JavaScript. This is not quite the same as using something like Java or C Sharp or other languages that have at runtime type validation.
This is not the same to say like Java or C Sharp. God damn it.
The devices or in a browser, wherever you can run JavaScript. This is not quite the same as using something like Java or C Sharp or other languages that have at runtime.
Mm-hmm. That have that have that have at runtime, yeah, that have at runtime type validation, because type validation interesting. So Java and C Sharp has a runtime type validation.
Type validation. There's some cost associated with that as well.
There's some cost associated with that.
To validate types at runtime.
Validate types at runtime.
So think of it like something that helps you as you're building your project, and then it sort of melts away, and you're left with regular JavaScript. TypeScript is very, very popular. So I have here a little graph comparing React to TypeScript, and you can see that even something as popular as React is like not even close to the growth curve of TypeScript downloads. It is starting to become almost a ubiquitous uh, part of a modern front end stack. There's sort of varying degrees of typing that you can use, for it, but it is definitely a dominant option in the space. So why are types a big deal? Like, why is TypeScript so popular? Well, first, it lets you leave more of your intent on the page.
Okay. Why types are a big deal? Okay. I want to take a look here. Something briefly. Uh, okay. Okay. Okay.
Son unos vasos desechables, agua grande.
Claro, y después compramos lo que habíamos a beber y todo eso. Pero por lo menos los vasos y el agua grande es clave. Hay que comprar servilletas y eso.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. That was quite interesting. Totally. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. I just want to dedicate a little bit more of time to that, especially here. Okay.
as the author of a piece of code. So type's a big deal. Like, why is TypeScript so popular? Well, first, it lets you leave more of your intent on the page.
Mm-hmm. So why? It's because it's not your intention. Something that Lil Super, a hip hop Venezuelan rapper, say. Intention and attitudes are moving like Lego, are spinning on like Lego Tetris block, man. It's like that. Oh my god damn. Holy in hell, bro. Intention, man. Intention. Why TypeScript is so popular? Very important. Why TypeScript? Why is TypeScript okay so popular? Why is TypeScript so popular? Because it's a question, exactly. And because it allow you to declare the intention of your code as you okay because it allows you to declare the intention of your code
So why are types a big deal? Like, why
as
is
you
TypeScript
author
so
it.
popular? Well, first, it lets you leave more of your intent on the page as the
Okay, it allows you to declare or it allows you to leave it allows you to leave more of the intent of your code as you author it. It allows you to leave more of the intent on the page, and I think this is very important because after all you are writing here. It allows you to leave a more of intent, pretty much like you are writing a book. That's exactly what you're doing. So because it allows you to leave more of the intent on the page, uh, on the page as you author, as you author, as you author of a piece of code. I think that's the value proposition of TypeScript. This is the value proposition of TypeScript. As you author a piece of code.
author of a piece of code. So if we look at this function here, where we're adding two numbers together, or possibly concatenating two strings, like, it's not very clear what the author of this function intended to be done here. I mean, we could look into the word add and try to infer, like, oh, this is addition. But you could pass a string in for A and B and it would work. And imagine that you did that, and then somebody comes along and says, all right, I need a third operand here. It's optional. I want to be able to add C to A and B, and they default that to 0. Well, now whoever was using this for string concatenation, they're going to end up with the character 0 at the end of their string. It it doesn't quite work. We're missing some intent here. We don't know what the author, meant to do.
So with this little example here, we're missing is the intent, man. We're missing is the intent here. Damn, you're right. So this is part of the intro here. Okay. So when you do things like this, for example, we need to infer what the what the we need to infer what the author was meant to.
Zero at the end of their string, it doesn't quite work. We're missing some intent here. We don't know what the author, meant to do.
Okay. So we need to infer what the author meant to do. But the reason I'm doing this is because I want to put words on what I'm doing. Okay? And when I'm doing the work, it's like, okay, I know what I'm doing is this. What is the I know that I'm doing with a particular intention. I know the intention of this. Something very, very important, not only when you write code, but also when you're working with some college and that kind of thing. This is the intention of this. This is the thing that I would like you to do for that. So we need to infer what the author meant to do.
This is a preview of what, typing a function like this looks like. But
Mm-hmm. Oh, what? Did you infer that? Did you build in that shit? Uh-huh, because you're using is now Typescript for okay. And that's exactly what it's gonna use, what it's going to generate behind the scene. But it's about to understand is the intent of that.
you can see here very clearly we're saying A is a number, B is a number, and this means we return a number. And this is a real TypeScript error that's popping up here saying an argument of type string is not assignable to a parameter of type number, and you can see red squiggles underneath the string containing a number 4. So we're being busted on mixed use of strings and numbers here, as we should, right?
We have been busted. We have been busted. 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 What? Okay. We have been busted. We have been busted, bro. Okay. So we have been busted. We have been busted. We have been busted.
So this represents more information in your source code.
So we have been busted here. And this represents more information in your code.
And I'm sure you can imagine here where you're like in your authoring environment, you're getting a lot more feedback about correct usage of all of your libraries and other parts of your code that maybe somebody else wrote. It's sort of you're able to sort of define some constraints here in terms of how these functions are meant to be used. So in essence, what we're seeing here is that TypeScript moves things that typically would be problems at runtime into compile time.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, is moving runtime errors. So TypeScript move runtime errors to compile time.
That you're getting this feedback earlier, you're getting it more clearly, you're getting it right at the call site where you're misusing this add function, and that's a lot more actionable. You're going to catch.
This is more actionable. This is more actionable at catching
things more
things
easily. You don't
exactly.
have to wait.
This is more actionable at catching errors easily.
Until unit tests catch this kind of thing, although TypeScript's not a replacement for unit tests, but it does represent a greater degree of feedback that you can get right away. So throughout the course, you're going to see that we have a lot of these little code snippets here in the website, which you can visit typescript-training.com, and you can see this website.
Completely, man. It serves as the foundation. It serves as the fundamentals, or it serves as the foundation of great co-authoring experience,
These are actually rendered from a TypeScript compiled code snippet here, so you can hover over these code points and actually explore, what's going on with each of these, parts of the code. I would encourage you to do so. There's a ton of valuable information you can get from like little tooltips. Sometimes that's where the type information, what's going on with each of these, parts of the code. I would encourage you to do so. There's a ton of valuable information.
No.
So welcome to, I would encourage you to do so. There's a ton of valuable information you can get from like little tooltips. Sometimes that's where the type information is hiding. You're going to need, for sure, two things. You got to be able to access this website that we're looking at right now, and you're going to want to make sure that you can visit the official TypeScript website, which is typescriptlang.org. So if you wanted to just watch along, that's what you would need. If you want to code along with us, which I would encourage you to do, we're going to have to clone a GitHub project and work with it locally so that you can open up VS Code or another editor of your choice and work through some of the examples as we study them.
What are the pros and cons of using TypeScript for its strict typing compared to regular JavaScript?
And this is another resource here. So GitHub project repo. That's right. You got it. Okay.
Typing seems useful, but as an experienced user, I'm afraid that it will be hard to understand. The benefits will be of making the language less dynamic and more strict.
Yeah, I would look back at this example that we just covered, which kind of illustrates how this regular JavaScript function could be used in a variety of different ways. Sometimes dynamic typing or duck typing, where JavaScript kind of attempts to use a value and it'll try to do whatever it can. It'll try to it'll try to treat a variable as if things work right up until the moment, things blow up or you get an unexpected result. So, for example, you could pass a function in for the argument A, or a class, or an HTML like DOM node. And where you would start to hit problems is, attempting to concatenate these things together. Like effectively, you only in JavaScript know things fail right at the moment where the problematic use happens. What TypeScript is doing for us here is it lets us say, all right, here's the boundary for a unit of code, and here are the constraints that I'm looking to apply. And so we're getting not only a better error that's telling us where was the problem, like specifically this value here is the problem, but it's telling us at the invocation site, not deep down in the function. I mean, imagine a plus b, like this is a much...
Exactly. It tells you errors at the invocation site. It tells errors at the well, not necessary. Yeah, the invocation site.
more intricate function. Imagine there are promises involved, or there's some async error that happens. Like it's easier to debug something like this, and particularly as code bases get more complex, and you have a lot of data moving around, and you have some very, very interesting data structures, to hold a lot of different things. It's JavaScript gets to a point sometimes where you start tripping over your own shoelaces, right? Where there's not enough that you can hold all of the conventions you've established in your own mind, and TypeScript helps you put that in the source code. Yeah, Kevin has a great comment in chat. Add the string 1 to the string 1, and you get back the string 11. You might not even catch that bug. It's that's a good point with this. Like even in the TypeScript case, I mean, you would catch that bug because this is saying it must return a number, but you certainly wouldn't catch it in the JavaScript case. Later in the course, we'll look at how you could introduce some dynamic typing. I mean, not dynamic typing, but flexibility in your types to TypeScript. So this is a good opportunity to talk about what we're going to cover in TypeScript fundamentals. We're going to first build a very small TypeScript program using the tsc CLI command. And then we're going to start getting into the details of the language itself. We'll cover variables and values, object, array, and tuple types. We'll talk a little bit about the difference between a structural and nominal type system. If you've used Java or C#, something like that, that's a nominal type system. We'll get into union and intersection types, which you can think of as TypeScript's concept of and or for types. We'll talk about giving types names, kind of like the way we can give classes or functions names. It allows us to import and export types across module boundaries. We can do that with interfaces and type aliases. And then as a class, we're going to go through an exercise where we try to write a type that describes any valid JSON value, which could be, as you know, objects. It could be arrays. We can have strings and numbers and booleans. Null is an allowed JSON value. So we'll build a type that describes anything that is valid JSON. After that, we'll get into type queries, which allow us to extract type information from existing values. So if you have like a return value from a function and you want to create a new variable whose type is the same type as what the function returned, you could like extract the type out and then use it in another place. That's a type query. Getting a type from a value.
From the value that you want. Yeah.
We'll discuss callables and constructibles, which is another way of saying like things you can invoke like functions and things you can use the new keyword with, like classes, when you create a new instance of a class. And then towards the end of the class, we'll talk about type guards and narrowing, which is the concept of building branches of code that handle specific parts of types. And then we'll get into generics, which is a really powerful feature that allows us to parameterize types. kind of like how a function parameterizes a value, right? You could say like f of x equals x squared. We can create a type that is defined in terms of a variable, and that variable is a type. And then we'll wrap up the day by taking everything we've learned and building a map, filter, and reduce kind of utility library, which you may be familiar with using those on arrays. We're going to make versions that work on dictionaries. So you'll take those same concepts and we'll sort of handwrite those utility functions ourselves with dictionaries in mind.
Okay.
Okay, so you need to be able to.
All right. Okay. So that's great. That's great. That's interesting bit because the whole point of this was to understand is the value proposition of TypeScript, and that is well that this, my friend, is the intent. It allows you to this. It allows you to know the intent of. It allows you to know the intent on the page as you author in code, or it allows you to know the intent of someone else's page. So, but the point of this is it allows you to know the intent of the code. So that'll be all for this video. Take care. Bye bye.